B'Shem Hashem Na'aseh v'Natzliach, Shiur Torah, Bruchim Habayim. We are back on our Tuesday night IGGERET HAGRA, continuing our series, the letter from the Gaon of Vilna, many years ago to its family, and of course to us, that we could learn from each and every week how we can fix our lives. Tonight's shiur will be for Ilui Nishmat Yosef ben Zakaya Cohen, and Lehavdil also for a refuah shlema for Rabbanit Levana bat Sarah, Rabbi Ephraim ben Shulamit, Rabbanit Sarah bat Anat, Avi Mori David ben Esriya, Imi Morati Doris bat Jora, and also for Hatzlacha Rabbah for Marsha bat Julie, Ayla bat Marsha, Samuel ben Marsha, Cephas ben Marsha, Alexander ben Marsha, Louis ben Marsha, Shaul ben Farzane, Amir ben Shaheen, and all of Am Yisrael and all of the righteous Noahides, especially the ones that continue to support all of the work we do at the organization, Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem, lots of good things going on. We have tomorrow night, we have our big event scheduled. I would love to see each and every one of you attend the event. I know it's not possible for everyone, but surely it's possible for many. And B'ezrat Hashem, we're looking forward to seeing you. We'll have some CHIZUK during the shiur, questions and answers. And then, of course, after the shiur, we'll have the one-on-one meetings for anyone that needs bracha or any personal guidance, B'ezrat Hashem. So that's scheduled for tomorrow night here in South Florida. And B'ezrat Hashem, we'll have a lot of fun doing it. Aside from that, we have, Baruch Hashem, a big success in our Purim campaign. Thank you very much for everyone that contributed to it. We got 5 different teams of people to distribute the funds to different poor people. There's unfortunately a very difficult situation in Eretz Yisrael. So Baruch Hashem, it was a very big blessing. Lots of tears of joy, lots of happiness came during this Purim. We had a team in Yerushalayim, in Netanya, in Bnei Brak, in Tel Zion, and one other place that's escaping my mind. But Baruch Hashem, we got to a lot of people, and now we have to start preparing already the campaign for Pesach, which is the biggest campaign of the year as far as Chesed and helping the poor. B'ezrat Hashem, I would say, in the next week or so, we're hoping to get the campaign up and running online, and get everybody to start doing mitzvot. That campaign is a lot more preparation because again it's a lot more people, a lot more involved, and we'll keep you posted on that. Aside from that, we have a couple of very big projects in the works, a few big movies. Anyone that has seen some of the ongoing projects that we have that have been that are out. For example, the Halacha series that we have in our B'ezrat Hashem channel, not my YouTube channel, but the B'ezrat Hashem YouTube channel that we have. We have Baruch Hashem our Avrechim from the Kollel, the Rosh Kollel, Rav Sharvit, gives a shiur each week, and several of the other Avrechim are giving amazing shiurim full of chokhmah, full of wisdom about all types of subjects. And then we also, that's in Hebrew. And then we also have Rabbi Lev Leib that is doing several shiurim per week, in regards to halacha, the Rambam, Ilchot Shabbat, lots of interesting topics. A lot of people like it. We're actually also doing some Russian shiurim on our Russian channel by Rabbi Leib. And also we have the new series by Rabbi Sunny Gigi that, Baruch Hashem, a lot of people are enjoying, going over the Yalkut Yosef, each of the halachot. And Baruch Hashem, each video is done at the highest level. Amazing chidushim, lots of great insights. So anyone that wants to get updates on those shiurim, then my recommendation is to simply subscribe to the B'ezrat Hashem channel. I know that there's, Baruch Hashem, lots of people on my channel and the others. There's need more people to subscribe to that channel. That way you'll get the updates. Which also, and another little bit of good news for all of you Torah investors. So you see where your money is going and how it's Baruch Hashem spreading not only to America, but also it's reaching the far corners of the world. And the same goes for our team, our wonderful team that is sacrificing their time, their efforts, their everything that they have to make sure that we spread the Torah everywhere. Over the last couple of months, the channels in Russian, in Spanish, in Portuguese, and even in Hebrew have really taken off. The biggest growth that we've seen ever actually has come from the Spanish channel, Baruch Hashem, where anyone that goes to our website, bhspanish.org, will see a beautiful website over there. But if you go to the Spanish channel, it's the hottest thing out there, Baruch Hashem, where they take my shiurim and put the Spanish subtitles on them. In the last month, there's been a huge amount of subscriber growth, 300-400% subscriber growth, some ridiculous number like that. And in fact, there's been more watch time, actual minutes of watch time on that channel than even the main channel, which is unbelievable. So Baruch Hashem, all of our new students and fans and supporters that are coming from the Spanish-speaking world are Baruch Hashem really jumping and enjoying this as we are. So Baruch Hashem for that. And again, any of you that are continuously contributing to the organization, going to our website, be'ezathashem.org, donating whatever you can, or donating on the app, or sending a check, or whatever it is, you are partners in all of these amazing things, where people that do tshuva in Argentina, in Germany, in Australia, in Canada, in New York, in Los Angeles, everywhere they're doing tshuva, you have a piece of that. And that's there's no end to the reward for somebody that is part of helping even a single person do tshuva. So Baruch Hashem for that. So the things are going well. There's a lot of big things that we're trying to do, which Be'ezrat Hashem, we're waiting for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to open the doors. But Baruch Hashem, things are looking up. Now, tonight's shiur, we have the Gaon of Vilna has been guiding us step by step of how to stay away from certain things that are dangerous, whether it's evil speech, wasting time, going to places unnecessarily, wasting the words that a person has. The Gaon of Vilna says even a wasted words could land a person in kafakela, Shem Yishmo, which the Gemara in Masechet Shabbat in the last chapter talks about how it's a very, very scary thing to destructive angels slingshot a soul from one end of the universe to the other. And there's quite a few stories in the Midrashim and in by different Chachamim, from Hasidut, from Sfarad, and all places that discuss the horrors that happen in this kafakela, and that's simply for wasted speech, needless to say, for lashon hara and for corrupting the Torah, which the Reshit Chochmah says that a person that corrupts the Torah, there is a no end to their suffering, meaning that they go to Gehenom and never end. So of course, any of those wicked people that are on the Jewish warning playlist, if they don't do tshuva, that's simply where they're going to be, and any of their followers. And unfortunately, the impact that we've had over the last several years of warning people to stay away from those bad people, although it's good where some people that have left, it's still not enough, because you see that unfortunately some of them continue to spread their heresy and even have students that are helping them spread their heresy. And really, we realize that one thing is for sure, that until Mashiach comes, there's going to be evil in the world. So there's no way for us to just only fight against the evil all the time and make that the top priority. We have to make sure that we ourselves are going on the righteous path. How do we become righteous? What's the righteous path? Now, of course, Sur Mera ve'aseh tov is what David HaMelech says. The first thing in regards to the righteous path is to run away from evil. But then he also says, do good. Meaning, so first and foremost, stop the sins. stop the desecration of Shabbat, desecration of the Torah, desecration of Hashem's name, stealing, lashon hara, all of the bad things that everybody knows are forbidden. Stop all of that. That's the first thing to do, because if a person has a lot of mitzvot, but those mitzvot are under the control of the evil, desecration of Shabbat, wasting seed, and all the other things, then unfortunately the reward for those mitzvot will be given to a person in this world, while their eternity will be an eternal horror. So it's important for us to follow what David HaMelech said and run away from the evil, run away from the evil people, from the bad stuff, from the heretics, from the people that want to be like the nations. They want to befriend the idolatry and invite it into synagogues. We have to run away from things like that. Even though there are certain things that look good. It looks good that, certain organizations have very big synagogues, or they're very popular, or seem very friendly. It's not, the evil doesn't look evil, and that's in essence what makes it dangerous. The evil generally doesn't, never looks evil. It's not some Hitler walking around the street shooting people. The biggest evil is the one that's pretending to be good. Where they seem friendly, they seem nice and cordial. So the most important thing is to know how to identify what the truth is versus the falsehood, and run away from the falsehood. But after doing that, after a person has established themselves in a understanding that they know the difference between right and wrong, that's not enough. It's good that they run away from evil, but in order to earn a place in heaven, they have to do a lot of good, and not a lot of good according to them, but rather a lot of good according to Hashem. And that's one of the things that you see happen a lot in the world today, where we saw the Chazon Ish mention it in the Sefer Emunah B'Bitachon, that series that we're going over. We saw that the Chachamim in the Pirkei Avot series that we went over several years ago discussed it many times, and we see that the Gaon of Vilna is discussing it now, where unfortunately what happens is that sometimes people will fool themselves into thinking that they're good because they know what's bad. They fight against the bad, or they make fun of the bad. As the Gemara in Masechet Megillah says, what's the sign of a Jew? Someone that mocks and desecrates idolatry. That's the sign of a Jew. That was the reason why Mordechai was called the first Jew. The first time it mentions the word Jew in the Torah, in the Tanakh, is Mordechai. So it's and also Batya, Bat Paro, was also considered a Jew because she desecrated the idolatry from her own household, from her father, biological father, Paro. But the point being is that it's the Yetzer Hara will sometimes make a person think that they're doing good, think that they're even righteous, think that they're a tzaddik, because they learned a lot of musar, in a sense where they know what's bad. But when it comes to actually doing what they're supposed to, doing the good in accordance to Hashem, that's when they fall short. Where they figure that, listen, I'm already not around the bad for long enough, I'm already fighting the bad enough that should be enough to be good. And unfortunately, that's very far from the truth. In fact, Rabbi Chaim Volozhin says in Nefesh HaChaim, and he brings the Psak Halacha from the Shulchan Aruch, from the Gemara, and many, many poskim throughout all of the generations. It's a complete, it's conclusive. It's not this is an opinion, that a person that does not make time to learn Torah every single day has no share of the world to come. Meaning that if he has the ability to study Torah and does not study Torah, instead he watches sports, instead he goes to different events, he walks around, he plays on the internet, watches TV, and so on, instead of studying Torah, that person is also going to Gehenom. And Rabbi Chaim Volozhin says, where is he going in Gehenom? He's going to the Gehenom that's never going to end. The world will end and his Gehenom will not end. And that's for what? That's not for killing people. That's not even for desecrating Shabbat. That's even if this person keeps Shabbat and he protects his brit and he does nice things and he's overall a nice person. But if he doesn't make time to learn Torah on a regular basis, if he doesn't learn Torah when he can, that person has no share of the world to come. So we see here that the words of Arav Nisim Yagen Alav Shalom really drilling into our hearts and our minds, where he used to say in his shiurim that, a person has to work an entire lifetime of 70 years to earn himself a place in heaven, but he can lose it just like that. And the first time I heard it, it didn't seem logical. But as you learn more and more Torah, you realize that it's not only logical, it's plausible, it's possible, and unfortunately, it's likely if we're not careful with our neshamot, as we are with many other things that are extremely valuable, but nothing as valuable as our neshamot. So, while fighting bad is good, it's not enough. We also have to go on the path of righteousness. We have to make sure that we're doing what's good according to Hashem. So, the Gaon of Vilna is telling us, in essence, the path to righteousness by his warning that he gave his son-in-law, which started in the last couple of shurim, where he said that he appeals to his son-in-law to adhere to all of the above, that he read this letter to the children, as I've stated, that his learning should be for the sake of heaven. That first and foremost, a person that's learning should learn for the sake of heaven and not for the sake of getting something. And I know today it's very popular to sell the Torah, to sell mitzvot, where the strategy that many people use in order to entice people to do what Hashem says is by telling them that if you do this, if you keep Shabbat, you'll get money. If you give here, then you'll get this. And that being not only the main reason, but many times the only reason that is motivating these people to observe Shabbat or to do anything of connecting to the Torah. And although there is a Gemara that discusses it, and it's also in the Zohar, that discusses that even if a person starts doing things not for the right reason, if he continues to do them, eventually it'll get to the right reason. So even if he starts learning Torah not for the right reason, he wants to become a rabbi, not because he wants to help people, he wants to be have a lot of honor. So even if he starts that way, if he continues to learn, eventually he'll get to the right path. But unfortunately, that eventually requires some guidance, meaning somebody needs to tell him there are other reasons that are much more important to being this rabbi, to being this righteous person, than the path that you started. Don't tell him on day 1 or even on day 50, but at some point someone needs to tell him. And many times what ends up happening is that people start getting on the right path, where they'll start observing Shabbat, they'll change their wardrobe perhaps, sometimes they'll give some tzedakah or do all types of good things, but they stay on that path, and then suddenly you see some of these people either decide that this is perfectly fine to stay on and simply be on a neutral for the rest of their life, where this is as far as they go. They're never going to do any more. They're never going to learn any more. They're never going to do any more, give any more of themselves. They simply feel like they're religious enough. Or worse yet, you see these people simply drop off, and many of them drop off like flies. So how could such a thing be? Many times it's because the original reason that started them, you do this and you'll get money, you do this and you'll find your zivug, you keep this and you'll whatever, something good is going to happen to you in your life. And many times that stays the only reason why they're doing it, where no one tells them that there are much more important reasons to fulfill the Torah, such as God commanded you to do it, and that's enough of a reason. And if you don't do it, you'll get punished, and that's enough of a reason and a motivation. No one ever adds those things to them. In fact, many frown upon it, and they think, no, you're going to scare them away, and little do they know that they're going to run away regardless. And it's better that you scare them to keep them than to not scare them and they end up leaving. When they see that that reward that was promised to them many times doesn't happen, or sometimes it does happen, but then they feel that they don't have a reason to continue since they got what they wanted. It was like a business transaction. So there's a Mishnah in Masechet Avot that promises that this would actually happen, meaning that the sages teach that if the relationship, whether it's the relationship between man and woman, or relationship between man and God, is based on a thing, then it won't survive. It won't survive. So, and this is not like we think it's not good, but rather it's an actual promise from the sages that if the relationship that you have with somebody is based on something that's material, that's physical, whether it be intimacy, beauty, honor, money, whatever other, profession, respect, whatever crazy reason people make life decisions based on, or your relationship with God himself is based on him giving you money, spouse, children, whatever it is. That's the reason why you're doing what you're doing. It will not last. Because at some point, either it's not going to work. Hashem is simply going to decide not to give it to you. He's going to test you to see if you really love him. Like he says, he's going to test us to see if we really love him. This is an actual verse in the Torah where he says he's going to test us to see if we love him, not just by small things like this, but even bigger things, such as sending false prophets like Jesus and Muhammad and all of the other wicked people that existed in history. He's going to send false prophets and to see if we love him. Why to see if we love him? Because if we love him, that means we would have actually studied the Torah enough to identify the falsehood everywhere else. And if we don't love him, then unfortunately we can fall for the trap of Christianity and Islam and Buddhism and all types of other heretical beliefs, even within the realms of Judaism, such as believing that God needs you or that there's no eternal punishment. That's a Christian belief. All types of stupidity that's out there today. Unfortunately, the sages discussed all of this. All of this was discussed. There's nothing new under the sun. The more we delve into the Torah, the more we see that everything that we've already discussed is actually found in countless places in the Torah. The heretics are there. The stories are there. Everything is there. Everything is there, as the Mishnah in Avot says, Afoch ba ve'afoch ba dekula ba. Delve into it and delve into it because everything is in it. So when you have a situation that someone has a relationship with Hashem and he starts or she starts observing Shabbat or observing modesty or family purity or whatever it is because of a thing that the rabbi told me or my friend told me that if I observe this, I will get XYZ. That will not last. Why will it not last? Because eventually either Hashem will test you and not give it to you, or he will give it to you. And the verse in Deuteronomy that my very dear Talmid and good friend Sunny said in his shiur, you will forget God. That's what HaKadosh Baruch Hu says in Sefer Dvarim, the book of Deuteronomy, that after he gives you all of the wonderful things that you asked for, instead of saying thank you, you're going to say goodbye. I forgot who you are, Hashem. Hashem Yishmor, may Hashem preserve us and give us another chance, even though we forgot him. And that's unfortunately what happens. So the sages promise us that the best way to help yourself, to help people get closer to Hashem is not by promising them something right now, but rather getting them on the righteous path. And the righteous path is not based on one thing, but rather a lifestyle choice where you realize that this is the right choice, not only because it will eliminate the hardship and the punishment that if you don't make this choice, but in addition to it, you will see a lot more good as a result of this life choice through your journey and at the end of it. And when a person realizes that this life choice is not necessarily an easy choice, when they realize the ramifications of the choice, whether it's not making this choice and the punishment, or not making a choice and the punishment, meaning there's a punishment in the next world, there's a punishment in this world for not making these choices, then they see, listen, as hard as this choice is, it's still easier than the hardship I will endure if I don't make this choice. And one of the main things that, that you can see yourself, from people that have made this choice and how they are in the world versus people that have went against this choice, is that just looking around the world, looking around the world and seeing what's out there. I'll give you one example that has stuck in my head for the last several weeks with this whole situation with Ukraine. And I've told you guys that, obviously there's tens of millions of dollars being raised in order to help the people in Ukraine. Apparently the world has picked a side, that apparently the Ukrainians are the good guys and the Russians are the bad guys, even though historically the facts are quite not exactly that. The biggest evil in history against the Jewish people has actually happened by the Ukrainians, even more than the German Nazis. There was the evil that happened by the people of Ukraine at the time of World War II, and even preceding it, many hundreds of years earlier, was surpassed what Hitler did. Surpassed the torture, the stuff they did. So again, it's foolish for people to make such a blind choice, especially since there's Jewish communities in both countries. But this is not our topic today. What I'm trying to get to is that people have made this choice that they want to help the so-called victim in Ukraine, and therefore they've raised tens of millions of dollars in the Jewish communities to go send there. Only Hashem knows if it's actually getting there. There's a lot of corruption. There's a lot of crooks that are stealing people's money. They put a campaign out there, they get the money, and they simply just keep it for themselves, pretending like they're actually helping people. So again, you have to invest wisely, and my suggestion is always to only donate real money to organizations you know and you're familiar with and you see what they do, rather than just some pipe dream that someone is selling you that this is going to make you good because you're going to help some people escape, theoretically. Now, with that being said, has anybody noticed who's raising all this money? With all of the animosity that the secular world, especially the secular Jews in Israel, in America, the Reform, the conservative, the ones that are just simply atheist, all the animosity that many of them have towards the Orthodox Jewish world, and the animosity they expressed during the Levaya of Rav Kanievsky, that Zatzal, that literally one of the biggest giants that's walked the face of the earth in the last century, just passed away. Nearly 1 million people are crying bitter tears that they lost their leader. And unfortunately, secular people that are so hateful of the Jewish world, they're such self-hating Jews that they start saying, oh, look, all of these Orthodox people, all these religious Jews, they're bringing Corona and spreading Corona again. The homosexuality event that they had a day or two before, that also got millions of people to come and everything, that wasn't a big deal. That didn't spread Corona. That's not a problem. There wasn't a problem of double parking and traffic. No. Only when it's religious people. So when you see the animosity that the secular world and the heretical world has towards Orthodox Judaism, you can't help yourself but think, but wait a minute. What makes them think that they're so much better than us? Like, what did they do that's so good? Even if you put religion aside, the fact that they believe that they came from some apes, and sometimes they act like apes, and they do what they want to live this so-called free life. Fine, we've all been there. I lived as a secular Jew for most of my life. I understand the logic of the lack of having a creator that's going to simply tell you what to do. I get it, but I never thought that I'm better than the religious people. In fact, anytime I saw a religious person, I always had respect for them, and if I saw them at the wrong places that I would go to, whether it be a casino or a club, and I would see somebody that looked religious, it always looked weird to me, and I honestly realized that there's something wrong with these specific people, not necessarily with the entire religious world. But at the same token, I never really thought that I'm better than them. And I always wondered, all of these lefty liberals that mock the Jewish world, make videos against the Jewish world, articles against the Jewish world, take whatever measures they possibly can to torture the Jewish world. Really, it's horrible what's going on out there. What makes them think they're so much better? What are they doing that actually makes them better? And when you really look at it, the answer is nothing. In fact, if you look at the facts, you would be amazed how there are still secular people left in the world. You'd be amazed. Why? Because when you see the amount of good that the Jewish people, the real Jews that are serving Hashem, the ones that are Jews because they not only got the Torah, but they're observing the Torah. When you see the amount of good that they produce in the world for all of society, not just for themselves, versus what is produced by their brothers that are mocking them, frowning upon them, and insulting them, you literally, it's like comparing a criminal to a tzaddik, and that's in essence what it is. But one of the things that that's been highlighted in my brain over the last few weeks is these campaigns that are literally raising tens of millions of dollars. Has anyone thought for a second, who is raising all of this money? Is it a lefty, liberal, Jewish organization? Is it, the CNNs and the New York Times and the Reform networks? Is it the Zionist organizations? Or is it rabbis? Orthodox Jewish rabbis and their students, their followers, their family, the people that are connected to them. Who's raising all of this money? Is it the Aguda that's full of Orthodox rabbis, Talmidei Chachamim, that are sacrificed their entire life for Torah? Or is it a bunch of thugs and club goers and celebrities? Is it Hollywood, or is it the Bet Midrash? And the reality is, you're not seeing the millions of dollars coming from your famous Adam Sandlers of the world and the David Lettermans of the world and the Howard Sterns of the world. You're not seeing the money go from there. Yes, there are exceptions here and there, but generally speaking, who is helping the Ukrainian Jews? It's Orthodox Jews. Now, are they only helping the religious Jews? Not even close. Everyone knows the majority of the people there, as they are everywhere else, are secular. But yet, the Orthodox Jewish world is sacrificing endless amount of energy to get money from people's pockets and bank accounts and Bitcoin accounts into the places that are going to help save lives. In the name of Torah, in the name of the sanctity of a Jewish life. Now, when you hear some of the speeches made by rabbis that are raising money for these things, you see that there's true pain in their voices, at least some of them. You see there's true pain in their voices and how much they care, and they say it's pikuach nefesh. But if you ask this rabbi, do you know anybody particularly over there that is really in life danger? Many of them tell him, no, I don't know anybody particularly there, but I know the general situation. So when you say it's pikuach nefesh, it's life risk, and there's almost like a tear coming out of your face, are you crying about somebody in particular? And the answer is no. They're crying about the people. How many secular Jews are crying about the Jewish people? They're more likely to cry about an elephant that died, or perhaps one of the movie characters died in their TV show. They're crying maybe perhaps about the dog that died. They're not crying about Jews. Why? Because the connection between a Jew to the Torah is what connects that Jew to the rest of the Jews, regardless of whether they are secular or frum. Whereas the disconnect of a Jew to the Torah also disconnects him from his Creator as well as from his fellow Jews, whereby he may have some Jewish friends and even a Jewish spouse, but he doesn't see any difference between them and the rest of the nations. And this is what I grew up with. This is what I saw my whole life, where you grow up thinking, what's the difference between me and Trevor? What's the difference between me and Charlie? What's the difference between me and Joe, the Italian guy that works at the deli? What's the difference between me and Ahmed? Even though, our people don't tend to get along so much, I get along with Ahmed just fine. What's the difference between me and him? What's the difference between me and Christine? What's the difference between me and Lee? What's the difference? And really, without Torah, there is no difference in the mind of a Jew. In fact, it looks silly that there are Jews out there that think there is a difference just because you wear a little hat and you pray out of this book all the time, you think there's a difference. In the mind of a secular person, the mind of a religious person looks ridiculous many times because they don't have the tools to keep them connected. Meaning that the connection between the Jewish people to each other is not done because you live in a certain neighborhood, but rather because you're on the same spiritual Wi-Fi network called the Torah. That Torah is that spiritual Wi-Fi that is connecting you to every Jew that's out there. Because there's a rule in the Torah that the sages teach us, Kol Israel Arevim ze lezeh. Now, of course, your average Jew knows that statement, but are you living it? And there's a very, very big difference between knowing how to quote something and living something. Now, the path of the righteous is full of these types of calculations, full of these types of decisions, because in order for a person to be righteous, it's not just based on running away from the evil. It's not even just based on just the mitzvot that they do, and giving and doing and praying, but rather in the way they do both. Where the Gaon of Vilna is now going to advise us how a person needs to run away from the evil, how a person needs to do the good and chase the good, how to do it. What is the path itself? What is the process itself? Of course, we all know you have to observe Shabbat, and you have to protect your eyes, and you have to be loyal, you have to be honest, you have to do all of these things. And of course, everyone knows that you have to make sure to run away from the heretics and the idolatry and not eat non-kosher, and everybody knows. But how do I do all of that stuff? What is the path itself, the common denominator that unites the two sides, which happens to be the same common denominator on that spiritual Wi-Fi network called the Torah that will connect me to a Jew in Ukraine, to a Jew in Afghanistan, to a Jew in Australia, to a Jew in California, to the poor community that doesn't even know they're in danger. Like, for example, right now, there is a apparent danger happening, an attack happening that very few people know. I only found out a few hours ago, or even the last couple of hours I found out about. There's an attack on a Jewish community right now, much worse than Ukraine. In fact, there's an attack on a Jewish community right now that's much worse than even the Holocaust. Now, you may not agree with me, but it is actually happening. In fact, it's not the only attack. There are attacks everywhere, but this particular attack is an attack that is happening as we speak with full nuclear weapons. Not nuclear weapons, perhaps, that you're thinking that Putin is hiding or not hiding, but rather the spiritual nuclear weapons. What is this attack? It's an attack by the church, an attack by the Christian missionaries that pretend to be Jews and call themselves Messianic Jews, even though their relationship with Judaism is like I have a relationship with pigs. There's no connection whatsoever. But the reality is that most people don't know this. Even religious Jews don't know really the big difference between Messianic Jews and regular Jews many times until you start really delving into the details. They seem Jewish. Sometimes they even are Jewish, but they don't happen to wear a kippah, and maybe they are wearing a kippah. And it's a very blurry picture. But nonetheless, when people receive some of their pamphlets and their CDs and all their videos, many times the picture is so blurry that a person can find themselves already 25, 30, 40% into the book, into the video, before they realize they have landed themselves inside the depths of tumah of Christianity. But it took them 20, 30, 40% investment in there before they realize it, because they don't know how to identify the falsehood as good as perhaps some of the experts. But nonetheless, right now there is literally a spiritual nuclear attack happening in Los Angeles, and there's also one being promised on New York by the Christian church. Not just any Christian church, but rather the most aggressive part of the Christian church, the evangelical Christians, led by aggressive missionary organizations like Chosen People Ministries, and there's several other ones. And right now, as we speak, they just dropped spiritual bombs in Pico, in Los Angeles, where you have literally thousands of homes got CDs, books, pamphlets dropped at their doorstep. As the video you'll see tomorrow when we post this online, I got a video from one of my students, literally a bunch of material dropped at people's doorstep. And I, as someone that's in the business of doing kiruv, I know this stuff costs a lot of money. We're talking about the average house is probably an investment of probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $40, $50, $60 a house. They're literally spending, which is an enormous amount of money to spend on a single so-called prospect. But nonetheless, they're dropping all of this material at people's houses by the thousands, spearheaded by an aggressive missionary organization in Israel that is unfortunately succeeding enough to have unlimited funding, like many of the other Christian missionary organizations. And right now, the Los Angeles community has thousands of houses that in their front door, when they get home from work, or if they already got home from work, they're going to find a bunch of material that, unless you know what you're looking for, you may not even realize this is not Jewish. You may just think, oh, maybe this is like Chabad. Oh, maybe this is like, I don't know, something else. But interesting. Let's delve into it. And before you know it, you could literally invest 20, 30 minutes looking at the material before you realize that you are already deep in the tumah of Christianity. And unfortunately, you're already infected. And the Los Angeles community has been attacked today. You're not going to see this on CNN and not even on Fox. But you are going to see it here. Why? Because this is what we talk about. This is what we care about. We care about the spiritual status of our brothers and sisters, some that we know, and countless that we don't know. Because the Torah is what connects us to them.
This is my front porch, my apartment. I just came out and they left this stuff outside our house. Do you know this website by any chance? And this is what they left. So the address is this one: Jerusalem Assembly House of Redemption. So what do we do? They probably left this in our entire block, which is this whole area is the religious community of Pico Robertson. What do you think we should do?
Shalom Aleichem, everyone. This is a public warning announcement for the Keilah in Los Angeles. You are currently being attacked by the Christian missionaries that are based out of Israel, that speak both Hebrew and English, and are very well funded and very ambitious to convert Jews to Christianity by going under the disguise that they are practicing Judaism too, by calling themselves Messianic Jews. The reality is there's nothing Jewish about them. They're 100% evangelical Christians that preach idolatry, and they're dropping off all types of books and newsletters and CDs in your community. This video is from one of our students that got the information today. It's highly advisable for you to throw out all of the material in the garbage. Don't let the tum'ah enter your house. And remember, the Rambam paskins that even if a Christian writes a Sefer Torah, it's a mitzvah to burn it. Again, we're not for going to other churches and evangelizing and proselytizing in their communities, and we only ask the same from them. Unfortunately, while they tell us, while the Christians tell us that they love us, at the same token, they try to convert us to different religions and take advantage of different people that are either weak in their beliefs or simply ignorant about it, or have all types of difficulties, financials and otherwise. And they try to build their house of idolatry this way for the last 2,000 years. It's important for you to remove all of this stuff and make sure to warn the community about what's happening. The Christians are very aggressive these days, especially the ones that are based out of Israel. This is one of the organizations that is targeting your community currently, and it'd be wise to, again, warn everyone and remove all of this information from anywhere. This is fulfilling the mitzvah of limchot et Amalek. Kol tu b'cha v'atzlacha.
And unfortunately, the Jewish world is quiet for the most part, despite the arrogant and obnoxious announcement from the Christian missionaries that they are planning an even bigger attack on Israel Independence Day in New York, where they're marketing special trips for missionaries to come be trained and missionize Jews during this event in New York. And literally, you have thousands and thousands of missionaries, both pro and non-pro, that are planning on going to the Jewish and Israeli events to go and missionize the gospel to the Jewish people. And for the most part, the Jewish world is quiet about it, even though some are aware, and even though some simply don't care. It's a situation where you have a nuclear warfare happening, but for the most part, we're quiet. Why are we quiet? Sometimes because of a unreasonable and illusion that we are good enough and it is not going to affect us. And sometimes it's just simply being nonchalant about anything that is outside of your own four walls. Now, the path to righteousness obligates a Jew to care about the rest of the Jews that are outside his four walls, that are outside his four amot, that sometimes are even across the ocean. The path to righteousness is not a path where you could just seclude yourself in some hole in the wall somewhere, in some cave, in some forest, and just learn all the books that you can consume, and that's what's going to make you righteous. If Hashem wanted that, then he wouldn't have removed Chanoch from the world. Chanoch was alive at the generation of Noach. He was an extraordinarily righteous person. So righteous that he secluded himself from the rest of the world, learned an endless amount of Torah to the point where HaKadosh Baruch Hu took him out of the world and turned him into an angel called Malach Mem Tet. So this is Malach Mem Tet is the highest angel, and that's Chanoch. That's Chanoch. But the Zohar HaKadosh says that Avraham Avinu had the ability to get to an even higher level than Chanoch, spiritually, but he didn't, because he went to do kiruv. He went to help the people realize that there's one God that runs the world, and it's not the idol you just bought at Walmart. There's one God that's running the world, and it's not some guy that died 2,000 years ago, or some guy that's alive, or some guy that is this, or some guy that's that. There's only one God. There's only one creator. And Avraham Avinu dedicated his life and his wife's life to doing kiruv, first and foremost by teaching them about reward and punishment, as the Zohar Parashat Vayera says that Avraham Avinu would teach him about the details of Gehenna. Even 4,000 years ago, Avraham Avinu would start off a shiur by telling them about the punishment that they're going to get if they don't listen to him. And he succeeded in a very big way doing kiruv. But in regards to his spirituality, he could have gone much higher had he dedicated that time to himself. Now, who is known as the patriarch, Chanoch or Avraham Avinu? Avraham. Who does a Kadosh Baruch Hu love? He loves both, but Avraham even more. Why? Because Avraham did the will of Hashem. Did the will of Hashem by going to collect neshamot. Going to collect neshamot. And in fact, the Chachamim teach us that all of the converts, the righteous converts, not the fake converts that convert even though they live in the middle of nowhere and they get some little piece of paper from some heretic that pretends to be righteous. No, people that are righteous converts that live in Jewish communities that are looking to do the will of Hashem, not to become heretics and 3 months after they convert, they decide to become their own rabbi. No, real Jewish converts that are looking to follow the Masoret of Am Yisrael, have a rabbi that's alive, have a rabbi that's a posek, that's passed on, have a dat Torah before you do anything, before you go right, left, before you do any, get married, before anything, follow, be a Jew. Righteous converts, those righteous converts, they come from Avraham Avinu. Why do they say, oh yeah, it's my father's Avraham Avinu, but in reality, is your father Avraham Avinu? You ask an average convert, is your father Avraham Avinu? Yeah, he's my spiritual father. No, he's not just your spiritual father. It's not just spiritual father because it's written on a piece of paper. No, you come from the seed of Avraham Avinu. How so? During the decades that Avraham Avinu was married to Sarah and she was not able to bring children to the world because she had no uterus. Still Avraham was together with his wife. What happened to all that seed? HaKadosh Baruch Hu loved Avraham Avinu so much that he took all of that seed and he made converts from it. The neshamot of the righteous convert, mamash, come from Avraham Avinu. Mamash come from Avraham Avinu. The beauty here is extraordinary. The question is, do we have that same love for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to do His will? Now, of course, everyone thinks that they do or says, maybe I will one day. But we have to see, what is this path of righteousness? This path of righteousness perhaps is not just me secluding myself like Chanoch. The path of righteousness is not just me doing mitzvot on my own. Path of righteousness doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go out there and become some famous speaker and speak in different corners everywhere. No. There is a path of righteousness available to all and required by all. And that path of righteousness surely requires a person to do good, as far as the mitzvot, run away from evil, as we already discussed, but there is the process. How to do the mitzvot, how to run away from the sins, that path. That's what we're discussing next. The Gaon of Vilna told to his son-in-law that he has to make sure that he learns Torah Lishma. So first and foremost, already teaching us that whatever you do in your servitude of Hashem, including the learning of Torah, do it without expecting anything. Because even if you need something, you could simply ask Hashem, but you don't necessarily have to connect it to your actions. Don't bribe Hashem. Don't try to say, listen, if I learn this much, or if I do this much, you're going to give me that much. Because that unfortunately spoils the whole mitzvah. Furthermore, in this section, the Gaon of Vilna continues to elaborate and tells us the direct recipe for the path of righteousness. And he says the following: ותלמוד מסכת אבות, ובפרט בפרקי האבות דרבי נתן, ומסכת דרך ארץ קדמה לתורה. The Gaon of Vilna continues to instruct his son-in-law and says, you should study Masechet Avot. This is Pirkei Avot. especially the Nusach of Avot de Rabbi Natan and the Masechet Derech Eretz that precedes Torah study. What are these two Masechtot? What are these two Masechtot? Now, Avot de Rabbi Natan is known that was put together by Rabbi Natan, by Abavli. Rabbi Natan Abavli was one of the sages, and he didn't just take the teachings of the well-known Pirkei Avot, but he elaborated on each and every single one of them extensively. Meaning, he gave an elaborate commentary on the commentary, with all types of midrashim and stories and examples, analogies, parables. Very extensive teaching. All to teach a person musar. And the same with Masechet Avot, with the Masechet Derech Eretz. Masechet Derech Eretz, which is the way to behave. Now, what are all of these teachings of the patriarchs? Now, Avot is a tractate that's under the Seder Nezikim. Nezikim is part of the Mishnah and part of the Gemara that, in essence, discusses the damages between people, where one person lost something, another person found it, one person broke something, another that belonged to somebody else. One person was holding something and protecting it for somebody, and it ended up getting robbed. There was a difference in opinion in the way a business deal was supposed to happen. There was a appreciation in something. There was a decline in something. All types of differences between two people. And so many in the world today, we call it business, but it's a little bit more in depth than that. The Chachamim say that anyone that wants to become a Talmid Chacham, study the tractates of Bava Kama, Baba Batra, and Baba Metzia. These are the tractates that discuss the details of anything to do with business. Much, much further than you're ever going to learn in any business school in the world, even if you went there for 100 years. Even if you went there for 100 years. Now, the Avot is part of Seder Nezikim. But Avot, for anyone that hasn't watched our Pirkei Avot series, that took us 2.5 years to go over each one of the Mishnayot there, is the teachings of the sages covering all aspects of what HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded us to do in regards to our behavior, in order for us to avoid bad and do good. In so many words, Avot is the blueprint to the path of righteousness. Now, the Torah is an endless ocean that covers many things. There are rules that pertain between man and God, man and man, rule between man and his wife, man and his children, his business, himself, his prayer, his learning, all types of things. But the sages here in Avot covered an extraordinary amount of material that's very easy to understand on the surface, but is as deep as the ocean. And the sages taught us one statement after another, with elaborate explanations and endless commentary by the sages thereafter, that anyone that studies it can get on the right path of righteousness with ease. With ease. While anyone that doesn't will virtually never get there. In fact, Rabotai, the Mishnah in Masechet Kiddushin, Daf Mem Amud Bet, 40b, writes that anyone who is proficient in the Chumash, the 5 books of Moses, in the Mishnah and in Derech Eretz, which is referring to Avot, referring to the what we just discussed. So if someone is proficient in the Mishnah, in the Chumash, and in Derech Eretz, will not sin quickly, much as a 3-ply rope does not rend quickly. And one that is not proficient in Chumash, Mishnah, or Derech Eretz is not a productive member of society. And the Rambam writes in his commentary on the Mishnah that Derech Eretz is, he defines it as someone whose relationship with his friends is a pleasant and polite one. Meaning that if somebody wants to have shlom bayit, real friendship, real solid relationships, there's a prerequisite. You need to have derech eretz. In order to have derech eretz, you have to learn what the sages taught and do it. Now, the Gaon of Vilna specifies not just Masechet Avot, but he goes even a step further and he says Masechet Avot, but even the additional commentary by Rabbi Natan Bavli, that's known as Avot de Rabbi Natan, because it's even more extensive. It's commentary on the commentary. Now the Gemara in Masechet Bava Kama, page 38, teaches in the name of Rava that a person who wishes to be righteous should fulfill the words of Masechet Avot, because that is the guide to life from the greatest sages that ever lived. Further, the Shita Mekubetzet writes in the name of Rabbi Yonatan that the Masechet Avot that is most specifically needs to be delved into is the Bereitot and Avot de Rabbi Natan, meaning the one that's even more extensive. More extensive. Of course, everyone has to start somewhere, and there's a custom among Am Yisrael to read Pirkei Avot from Pesach till Shavuot. But of course, if you have seen what I have seen in many communities, usually this is not a deep study, but rather more of like a customary reading, where somebody just reads the different Mishnayot very quickly, and make people feel good that they read something. Again, I guess there is something positive to it. At least they're reading that and not saying Lashon Hara. But as far as learning, as far as applying these things to their life, I don't believe that type of reading is going to help anybody in their life. For a person to really change their life, they need to study the Masechet Avot. And again, they're very easy to understand. They're very there's a lot of work written about them by many of Gedolei Hador from the previous generations, from the current generation. Rav Ovadia Alav Shalom, he wrote extensive commentary on Masechet Avot that's actually even been translated to English. There is many of the sages throughout the generations wrote commentary on Masechet Avot. The Rambam wrote a commentary on Masechet Avot, and many sages wrote about it. But the point being is that you see from them that since all of the sages, literally, it's practically like the rule number one for the sages that have written many books throughout the generations is to cover some or all of the Mishnayot in Masechet Avot as far as writing something about them. And there's endless amount of material about it in English and in Hebrew and other languages. And I highly recommend a person watch the series that we have, which is called Musar Pirkei Avot, because we not only took what was in front of us, but was also in many other books, and compiled it and put it in such a fashion that a person could really take a lot home from every shiur. And every shiur is very different than the other. In those days, we were doing, average shiur was over 3 hours. So, some of you that are not used to long shiurim may have to you have a couple of sittings before you complete a single shiur, but nonetheless, it's highly recommended. And the Gaon of Vilna is not only saying it's highly recommended for you, but he's saying it's highly recommended for his Talmid Chacham son-in-law to go over this Pirkei Avot, because to learn this is not just a recommendation, he's saying, but rather this is a prerequisite. A prerequisite which he describes as Derech Eretz preceded the Torah. Now, this Derech Eretz Kadma Torah, which is in essence loosely translated as good manners, precedes the Torah, is really a statement by Eliyahu Navi in Tana Devei Eliyahu. But what does it really mean that good manners precede the Torah? Does that mean that if you're nice and smiley, that you don't have to keep the Torah? Or if you're smiley and nice and have a good attitude, that Hashem is just going to simply look over the fact that you're a heretic, or you desecrate Shabbat, or you're not modest? What does it really mean that good manners precedes the Torah? So, first, we've learned this in the series. We also learned this in the series by the IGGERET Ramban. The Ramban says that Derech Eretz Kadma Torah is simply a strategy, which the Gaon of Vilna is repeating here. It's a strategy to learn Torah, where before you go and learn the Chumash, before you go and learn the Gemara, before you go and pray, before you go and learn Halacha, learn some Musar. Learn some Musar, do tshuva as a result of your learning, and then learn. Why? Because if you show up to your learning, simply just you show up to your Gemara lesson or Halacha, the same as you were yesterday. Many times, you'll have a tough time getting started. Why? Because you have a lot of things that have happened from yesterday. Perhaps a disagreement with somebody, maybe your spouse, maybe your kids, perhaps some email or text message that you got that you didn't like so much, something that you happened at work. A lot of things happen between the last study session and this study session. So many times, by the time you actually get started, it's not really when you got started. You open the book, but many times you're like, it takes a while to get things going. It takes a while to really get things going, and sometimes if a person is busy and he's got a career and all types of other things, he's not learning on a regular basis, it could literally be a half hour, or an hour, or even longer for them to get really warmed up, which by the time they finally got warmed up, it's already the end of their time allotted for learning, and they have to go back to work, they have to go back to doing whatever it is that they do. So by the time they got really warmed up and really into things, they already have to go. So the Ramban says there's a better way. What's that better way? Learn some Musar. Learn 10, 15 minutes of Musar that you're really delving into, you're really analyzing. It could be the first time you've ever seen it, the 500th time you've ever seen it, one statement that keeps repeating in your, one Mishnah that keeps repeating in your brain 1,000 times a day, whatever it is, go into it, delve into it, get yourself spiritually situated, and then start studying. Why? Because then you're on fire. You're on fire from the first second. Now, of course, theory and practice are two different things. But nonetheless, this is one of the things. This is one of the meanings of Derech Eretz Kadma Torah. Go learn Derech Eretz, learn some Musar to start working on yourself, on your behavior, analyze the flaws and the mistakes that you've made thus far since you woke up, since yesterday, since the last time you've learned Torah, you got into an argument with your wife, you yelled at your kid, you really got upset at your dog, even though the dog is just being a dog. You got annoyed at your secretary. You realized that it's not your secretary, it's somebody else's secretary, but you're treating her like she's your secretary. You did this, you did that. You got mad at the clerk because the coffee was too cold, and you started insulting him and causing chilul Hashem, and all types of things. You start, hold on a second, maybe I'm not as good as I should be, so perhaps I got to work on myself. During that 5, 10, 20 minutes that you're learning, you could already start doing tshuva. So now that you've already got yourself tuned with that, you can learn Torah much better. Because your neshama has been fine-tuned. Now, why can't you just do that by going straight to the Torah? Because not all parts of the Torah fine-tune the neshama when it comes to your character traits. For example, if you're going to read this week's parasha or the last couple of weeks in Sefer Vayikra, many times people have a hard time connecting to it and I realize, what do I have to know so much about sacrifices? Not only is there no Bet HaMikdash right now, but even if there was, I'm not a Kohen. Why do I need to know all these things? So many people don't really understand what is there to learn about sacrifices. And I can tell you that from my experience, it's unless you delve into Torah and you really, really put yourself in there to analyze everything for the sake of heaven, you're never going to enjoy the topic of korbanot. Why? Because there's no story. There's no bad guy, good guy most of the time. You're waiting to go back to either reverse to Exodus or to fast forward to Bamidbar. You want to go the story plot because you figure, this is like boring because it's like sacrifices in the Mishkan. And although it's cool, like, what does it have to do with my life? And the reality is it has everything to do with your life, but you're not going to find that out until you delve deep into it and start connecting to different things. And I'll give you an example. An example perhaps you've heard. Maybe you haven't. In the beginning of Sefer Vayikra, in Parashat Vayikra, there's an endless amount of Musar to be taught. Now, from the looks of it, doesn't seem like it. Why? The Parasha starts, Vayikra el Moshe v'yidaber Adonai elav mi'oel moed le'emor. The book of Vayikra, Leviticus, begins with a statement. He, meaning Hashem, he called to Moshe, and Hashem spoke to him from the tent of meeting, saying. That's the first verse. This verse, you can write 1,000,000 books about. 1,000,000 books, and it wouldn't be enough. Says the Midrash Rabbah in Parashat Vayikra. Moshe only entered the Mishkan after Hashem called him. As it says, Vayikra el Moshe vayidaber Hashem. That Hashem called to Moshe and Hashem spoke to him from the tent of meeting, from the Mishkan. From there we learn that Moshe, who built the Mishkan, he's the one that built the Mishkan. He's the one that was the only one that was able to raise the Mishkan. The rest of the nation tried to put the Mishkan and lift it. No one was able to. Moshe Rabbeinu by himself raised the Mishkan. Meaning, the first Bet HaMikdash, Moshe Rabbeinu lifted it up. Ready. For who? For the conversations between Moshe and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what it's for. Now eventually it will be the Kohen Gadol, but initially it's for the conversations between Moshe and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you said you're going to bring yourself to us down here. You wanted a place. You told me how to build it. I built it. I was the only one that you allowed to raise it. And now that it's ready, I'm waiting for you to call me and invite me inside. Why isn't Moshe Rabbeinu already inside, looking around, saying, wow, look at this Kodesh Kodashim, it's sick. Look at that, it's amazing. The gold, the korbanot, everything's brand new, pristine, beautiful, all the measurements, all the different things. Why is he analyzing stuff? I don't know, like people do with their houses, lehavdil. Show, oh yeah, you see, those shades? Yeah, I got those shades from Italy. What do you think I spent on those shades? Ah, come on, 10,000? Ah, that's for poor people. No, 25,000 a shade. From Italy, remember, not from New York. From Italy, 25,000. You see that couch? Where do you think I got that couch? Don't even make that couch in America. You know what I got? Honestly, I didn't want to tell you. I don't want you to get it, but I'm the only guy in America that has this couch. Yeah, what kind of couch is it? What is it, like Mars? No, it's not quite Mars, but it's from Greece. It's from Greece. They get it from special lambs that are only 3 months old and have one eye. And they take their skin, they made that couch for me. That's the couch. How much that? It's 100,000, that couch. Psh, what a couch. What a couch. You see the legs of the couch? Those legs are not part of the couch. I had the legs of the couch delivered from somewhere else. Where did you get this one? Oh, that, okay, I'll tell you because you're my friend. The legs of the couch, I got it from Germany. There was a couple of Nazis, but listen, they made good legs for the couches and had them special deliver it to the factory in Greece to put it on the couch with the lambs with the one eye. You see the carpet, the rug? That's not a regular rug. That is alligator skin that's mixed through his ancestors with a python. That's what you're walking on right now. You should say thank you to me that I allow you to walk on my python alligator. And you see that window? Someone told me that came from a dinosaur. I just can't verify it yet. I don't know the price. And people spend an endless amount of time and resources to beautify their houses and their offices with all types of mumbo jumbo, with the window shades and the carpets and all the stupid things, and they have a blast describing it. Oh, the counter has a special granite. It came from Afghanistan, but not the bad part. And this thing came from Italy, and it came from this. And literally, you go to the guy's house, you spend 40 minutes just listening to how much money he spent to build this house. That you're only going to spend another 20 minutes in before you go home because you have stuff to do. But every time somebody comes over, he gives them a tour. Oh, you see this? Yeah, that's from eggshells. But that's just any eggshells. That's from ostrich eggshells. And that's and all types of nonsense that people spend their time on. And then they walk you into the walk-in closet with 4,000 shoes, perfectly neat. And how do you know that people don't have kids when their house is completely pristine? If your house is pristine, either you don't have kids or you have a problem. A very serious problem. But nonetheless, it's fine to be neat. It's fine to have fancy schmancy things. It's not fine to make a big deal out of it, to make your whole life about it. And when someone asks you for something to say, all you have to say is things about the possessions you have. The car, the tires, the desk, the wheels, the carpet, the window shades, the shoes, the special jacket. Everything has a story. Maybe you'll even make an NFT out of it. Maybe this, maybe that. Everyone thinks they're a designer and they got this when they were on vacation, and it's so memorable. Pathetic. Literally pathetic excuse of a life. Why? Because it shows how little is in people's brains. That's what it is. How do you know? How can you conclude the same exact thing, even if you're in that life right now? Simple. 20 years from now, 25 years from now, 30 years from now, you got life change during that time. Are you going to still care about the stupid shoe that you spend $500 on because some basketball star decided to sell for $500? 30 years from now, are you going to care that at some point in one of the houses you owned, you had window shades that came from Italy? 10 years from now, when you sell this house, or even a year from now, do you really think somebody's going to buy your house because of the desk that you owned that came from Guam? No, no one's going to care about the story but you. But guess what? That story is going to cost you. Why? Because you replaced a piece of your life for that. But not just a piece of your life with extra effort to make the money, but a piece of your life as far as a piece of your mind. That story of that window shade and that car and that jacket and whatever else that has special value, that has a place in your mind. So when Torah tries to enter, it can't. There's a window shade there. There's a tire from Jamaica. There is a bear skin jacket that's from, I don't know, Antarctica. It's taking up the space in your mind. How could you allow Torah to enter? And unfortunately, Rabotai, this is everywhere. Everywhere. People spend an enormous amount of time gathering possessions in order to justify their being. They publicize it on the internet and unfortunately make themselves literally very difficult to deal with. Why? Because no one can ever live up to these things. And I personally think the people that are the most difficult to help are people that are successful monetarily. It's impossible to help them with shidduchim. Impossible. No one's ever good enough for them. And even if you found the beauty queen of the world and the perfect Prince Charles or whatever it is, it's still not good enough because they sneezed the wrong way. And everything is replaceable. Everything is disposable. Successful people monetarily are the worst, in many cases, worst people to deal with when it comes to being a spouse and helping them. Why? Because they already think they're doing good. So what are you going to help them to fix? And part of the reason of why somebody wants to have somebody in their life is because not necessarily they need somebody to fix them, but they want to build something together with somebody. But when the person is so successful that they don't think that they can ever do anything wrong, that their bathroom stall smells like roses, then what ends up happening is that no one could ever live up to this. No one could ever help them. No one could ever guide them. No one could ever do anything but be an arm candy or be just some slave. No one could ever do anything. No one can guide them. No one can say anything that's not agreeing with whatever craziness they have in their mind. And unfortunately, this is part of the shidduch crisis in the world in the wealthy communities where you have very, very old singles. Why? No one's good enough. No one's good enough. No one's good enough for the parents, or no one's good enough for the kid himself, who's no longer a kid anymore. He's already 30, 35, 40. She's 45 and still thinks she's Princess Beauty. Or they become really desperate. They start doing stupid things. Rabotai, I'm telling you, the worst thing that a person can do is make their primary focus in life materialism. Why? Because they'll end up like some of the things you guys are probably laughing about right now. They end up that way. Now, I'm not saying don't aspire to succeed, but to make monetary success your primary focus in life is a recipe for disaster. Is a recipe for disaster. Why? Because in essence, it consumes you. It consumes you to such an extent that you start defining yourself as these things. And even though many times you'll see very successful people, even multimillionaires and billionaires, look like they're homeless. Literally, they look like they're homeless. They're driving a $500,000 car, but they're wearing, clothes that you could, buy from Walmart on some, back-to-school sale for $9.99. But they still, even though they themselves appear a certain way, that's also part of it's part of it. It's part of the show. It's the complete extreme with the complete extreme. It's a look of itself. The point I'm trying to say is this. When a person gets to a point where they've made materialism so important to them, when you go to their house, they will spend an enormous amount of time teaching you about their house and how they got every single piece of it and how they build this and how they build that. And aside from the conversation about the directions that you took to get to where you need to be, and the conversations about other people's lives, these are the lowest forms of conversation, which literally present zero intellect. What we aspire to do is, by going on this path of righteousness, is not just pretend like we're righteous, but actually be righteous. And therefore, we have to do things that are beyond the pocket, beyond the bank account, beyond the type of desk that you have, things that have value, that's not just monetary. Ideas, eternity, significance, purpose, intellectual things that are of substance, not just intellectual conversations that are just, the road to nowhere. And one of the things that you'll see is that the sages teach us time and time again, that if you're going to, the more you're going to focus on materialism, the worse you're going to get as a person. Where your character traits will, in essence, start getting worse as a result of your focus on materialism. Now, in order for a person to live a life of success, both monetary and spiritual, they have to have a roadmap. A roadmap. First and foremost, the Torah comes before everybody else. That's the first thing. Now, the Torah means, as I said already multiple times, step number 1, run away from anything that's against the Torah. Somebody tells you to desecrate Shabbat. Somebody tells you to go towards Christianity or some other form of idolatry. Somebody tells you to steal. Somebody tells you to be dishonest in any other way. Be an adulterer. Be a liar to customers, to government. All that stuff, run away from it. Run away from bad stuff. That's step number 1 in the Torah path. Step number 2, do the prerequisite in regards to your positive things of mitzvot. You have to pray every day. If you're a guy, put on a tefillin. You have to make time to learn Torah. You have to give tzedakah. Make sure that whatever monetary ambitions you have, they always have a Torah ambitions tied to them. You're giving tzedakah on a regular basis, and not just when someone begs you or when you get 500 emails, there's something of a disaster out there. Torah is a lifestyle. It's not just something that you do on the side. So you do the good, the Shabbat, the tefillin, protecting your eye, all that stuff. And you run away from the bad. Okay? But now, there's the character traits. And the character traits are how you do all of these things as far as not pretending to be something that you're not. Not pretending something you're not. Don't pretend to be more righteous than you are. You don't necessarily, and I don't recommend you pretend to be wicked either. But definitely don't pretend to be more righteous than you are. Be who you are. Be proud of who you are. Be proud of being a Jew. Be proud of being a person that's following Hashem. Don't pretend to be more than what you are, which happens many times. And more importantly, just like the Ramban taught and the Gaon of Vilna followed, before you learn Torah, before you learn the Chumash, the Halacha, whatever else that you're going to learn some Musar. Do that also with everything else in your life. Meaning that the constantly learn Musar, and that's actually applies to you, and see where you are failing. What is the world's complaint against you? The world typically usually means your spouse. Okay? So what does your spouse complain about? Is she complaining that you're lazy? Is he complaining that you're a big spender? Is she complaining that you're too angry? Is he complaining that you're, something else? What are they complaining about? What are they complaining about you? Whatever they're complaining most often, start reading about that. Start reading of how to overcome that. Pick one character trait at a time. And start working on that particular character trait and make sure that you do it on a regular basis. Because when you do it, all of the other things that you do become better. The good that you do become better when you're no longer as angry as you were before. The good that you do as far as the tzedakah ends up being more generous when you're less angry as you are typically. The good that you do ends up becoming much better as a result of you being more generous, and therefore you have more time and patience with your time. Generosity is not just something you do with money. Generosity is sometimes with your time. The good that you do as far as your Torah observance becomes much better when you are much more focused and disciplined in a positive way, and therefore you pay attention to what you do on Shabbat and Yom Tov, and don't act as if nothing matters and everything is okay. Even if you make a mistake, it's no big deal. All the good that you do becomes better as a result of you perfecting character traits. Even more so if you perfect big character traits, and perfection takes many, many years, and at times you have miracles where you perfected something earlier than that, but generally speaking it takes a while. But it's not just like you have really, really bad for a long time and then one day it's fixed. It gets chipped away. Every so often it gets a little bit better. Every so often it gets a little bit better. So for example, if somebody's an arrogant person, and there are endless signs whether you're arrogant or not, maybe we'll get into it in a second, but if you're an arrogant person and you want to work on becoming much more humble, one of the greatest things that you can do for yourself is working on humility, because that will first and foremost make the Torah that you're learning much more comprehensible, because the more humble you are, the more you can accept that there is an authority on top of you, that they're not only a creator, but also authorities as the sages, the halacha, the masoret, the customs that preceded you. If a person is an arrogant person, it's impossible for him to accept all of this superiority on top of him, that there's these customs and then these laws and rabbinical laws and biblical laws, and the biblical law, maybe it's not really this and maybe it's not really that, and a God, and maybe God really needs me, so I don't really need to do what he says. And that all comes from arrogance. The more humble a person becomes, the easier it is for them to accept Hashem, his soldiers, the sages of previous generation, the sages of current generation, the halacha, the customs, everything. The more humble a person is, the easier it is for them to not only accept it, but even love it. The more arrogant a person is, the more unbearable it is to be told what to do. Who are you going to tell me what to do? No, it's not me telling you, it's the halacha. The halacha says if you do this, this will happen. No, you don't understand it. How do you know I don't understand it? How do you figure? I studied this subject for 5 years. You just heard about it now. How do you assume I don't know what I'm talking about if you just heard about it now for the first time and I've been studying it for 5 years, or 7 years, or 10 years, or 15 years? How do you assume that? It's all arrogance. You simply don't want it to be true. You don't want it to be that way because you are an arrogant person and you can't accept anything from somebody that's bigger than you. This unfortunately happens many times with people that think that to go into the Torah world, whether it's if they want to convert or they're Baalei Tshuva, or even if they're just getting more religious, even if they've lived religious life their whole life, the growth is always stunted by a person's flaws in character trait, especially when it's arrogance. Arrogance is like a nuclear weapon. It's a nuclear weapon that a person bombs themselves with. And it's a horrible, horrible thing. But nonetheless, it's something that all of us have to some extent, and we have to work on it. So the more a person works on his humility, the easier it is for him to accept what the Torah says, the clearer, the more pure the vessel that he becomes, and it becomes pleasant to be around such a person. Furthermore, the more humble a person is, the easier it is for them to identify evil, heresy, bad. Why? Because they are at such awe of the Creator, His laws, His customs, His messengers, that chas v'shalom to them, God forbid that they would ever steer right or left from all of this beauty, all of this holiness. And the second that they see something that is the opposite of the truth, they literally, it's revolting to them. They want to vomit. But again, if a person is arrogant, I can handle it. I can walk into a church, nothing will happen to me. I'll even have a debate with the priest in front of everybody. Nothing will happen to me. And their attitude is, they own the world. That's unfortunately a very sick person. So sick he doesn't even know he's sick. So when a person works on their character trait of arrogance and anything else, both of the act, the running away from evil and the doing good become better. Become better. On the other hand, a person could easily say, listen, I don't think I'm arrogant. I think I'm perfectly fine. And unfortunately, 99% of the time, they're lying to themselves without even realizing it. Why? Because if you think that you know enough, that's already a sign of arrogance. You just may not know what arrogance is yet. You may not have studied it yet. The Gemara in Masechet Avodah Zarah says that Avraham Avinu, his tractate of Avodah Zarah, was bigger than our entire Shas. He had, I think it was something like 600 and some say 700 chapters in his tractate of Avodah Zarah. Today we only have 5. So what is there that much more idolatry in the days of Avraham Avinu than today? No. But rather that Avraham Avinu, he had a tractate of Avodah Zarah that had all of the character trait flaws. Each one of these character trait flaws are a form of idolatry to a certain extent, especially when it comes to anger and arrogance and so on. And for Avraham Avinu to perfect himself and become one of the Avot, he had to literally break his own inner traits, in order to perfect himself. He wasn't born this way. Every one of the greats was someone that built themselves to become that way. Now, when a person does not even accept any talk about, oh, listen, I don't need to work on my arrogance, that already is a sign of arrogance. Chachamim also say that there is certain behavior that a person does when they're arrogant. Like, I'll give you some examples. One of them is when a person does a certain form of speech, and it's kind of disgusting, but I guess maybe I have to do it for you guys so you understand what it is. When they talk like this, and they suck like air, but it's not because of any type of like medical problem. It's just like they talk in such a fashion that it's like it's almost like the world is too small for them. They're like eating the world. It's a certain behavioral trait where they talk like this, and it's almost like a dog. But this is common behavior in the world. There's also a person that's of arrogance, typically is very comfortable with themselves, comfortable with their body. They touch themselves a lot. They show themselves. They're very, like those types of people. And so a person needs to, again, identify the truth of who he really is, who she really is. If you're spending a extra 20 minutes in front of the mirror to prepare yourself because you like that people look at you, you're an arrogant person. Yes, it may come from self-consciousness, but it's also arrogance. And either way, it's a spiritual sickness that will only yield you pain. So a person that it knows that there is some arrogance in them needs to know that this arrogance is getting in the way of me serving Hashem. If you're constantly pushing yourself to be the center of attention, not because of the better good, but rather because you want people to notice you. You want people to hear your idea. You want people to hear you talk and your voice, and you want people to notice you and give you credit. All that stuff, these are all signs of arrogance. Now again, you may not care about it, but I'm telling you, all of these things are getting in the way of you performing mitzvot the right way, like you could. You running away from evil with ease, like you could. You being the spouse, that's a fantastic, perfect spouse that you could be if you would simply do that. Eliminating the arguments that simply are unnecessary. Being more generous when you can be if you simply eliminated those things. And on and on and on. Being a better parent, being a better student, being a better teacher. All of these things require a person to humble themselves, especially when it comes to them serving Hashem. Now, this is just one single character trait, and all of us need to spend a lifetime working on each one of our character traits, but all of us know that we have certain things that the world complains about. The world complains about, and that's generally what you want to start with. And many times people will fool themselves. As I said earlier today, they fool themselves to think that they're something that they're not because they're doing something good, and they figure that this good that they do is so good, it has like a domino effect and makes everything good. And that's not necessarily always true. A person could easily think that they are much more righteous than what they really are and start pretending so often that they start fooling not just the world but themselves to really think that they are that righteous until somebody calls them out. Until somebody, calls their hand and they see that, oh, perhaps maybe I'm not really that. Where sometimes people always will pretend like they are the, Gabriel, the angel, when they connect with a rabbi. They'll say, oh, listen, yeah, Rabbi, listen, I learn all the time, and, I pray, and I make sure that I don't talk during prayer, and I pray with kavanah. Oh, okay, so what do you need from me? No, I just want to say hi to the rabbi. Okay, great, okay, bye. I'm not looking for friends. I'm looking for patience. I'm not looking for friends. And if a person comes to a rabbi as if he knows everything, he does everything, there's no point of the relationship. On the other hand, if a person comes and gives the rabbi on day one all of the baggage they've consumed, all the problems they ever had for the last 40, 50 years on day one, that's also a little bit overbearing. So a person needs to get control of themselves and take one step at a time, but most importantly, not pretend, because many times a person will pretend and start, living a fake life. And they start saying, oh yeah, I do this, and then one day when either they're sick of themselves being a faker, or somebody catches them being a faker, all hell can break loose. This is happening many times in the world of political correctness. Today people think that, political correct people, they're the intellectuals, they're the polite people, but in reality, political correctness really means liars. They're just pretenders. That's who they are. People that are politically correct are by default liars because they distort the truth in order to seem correct in the eyes of the public. That's political correctness. Derech Eretz is the exact opposite of that. It's perfecting your behavior in such a fashion that you start becoming so concerned about your behavior and how it affects the world around you that you stop caring about what consequences it has on your life, and you start caring more about the consequences that it has on the world around you. How is this going to affect my wife? How is it going to affect my husband? How is it going to affect my students, my coworkers, and so on? And you start thinking a lot more about that, where you're not going to wear something not just, even though it looks good on you and you like it and so on, but you know that the last time you wore it at the party and your friend's husband was there, he looked at you. And you know that he liked the way you look. So why are you going to wear it again? You want your friend to get divorced? You're already married, you have kids, but listen, your friend's husband, he saw the outfit, he liked it. Are you going to wear it anyway? If you are, you're an arrogant person, you're a selfish person, you're a mean person. But if you start caring about people, you're not going to look for the attention of their husbands. You're going to look for the attention of your husband. So your choice of outfit to the wedding or whatever it is going to be based on, what does my husband like? What does my husband like? But again, if your husband is righteous and he wants you to be modest, cover your hair, cover your body, not one of these husbands that wants his wife to be a zonah. And go show the world her body parts. I'm talking about a normal husband. So a righteous wife is not going to care about what the world thinks of her outfit. She cares about, what does my husband compliment the most? Now, of course, the husband is not going to make his wife into one of these filth that walks on runways. He's going to make sure that he's as generous with his wife as possible. He not only with money, but with compliments. Why? Because he knows that when he gives his wife compliments, she has more confidence, she has more happiness, she feels he loves her more. So a husband that's stingy with compliments, that's a selfish husband. It's not just a mean husband, a bad husband, it's a selfish husband. Why? Because he's thinking, listen, what? I told you looked good like 3 years ago, nothing changed, so why do I have to keep saying it? You don't have to say it for you have to say it for her. You have to say it for her. Why? Because she feels good. And guess what? You're saying it for her, which ends up being for you. Why? Because it shows that you have some decent qualities about you, that you care more about her than yourself. But again, you're going to give her the compliments about things that Hashem compliments also. Not about what Steve and Jose are complimenting in the supermarket. You're complimenting things based on what Hashem says is good. So when a person starts looking at things that way, starts being concerned about things. I want to yell at my kid. I want to yell at my coworker. But wait a minute. How are they going to feel after I yell at them? Is there another way to deliver the message, even though it's a harsh message, even though it's a tough message, even though they did something really bad, something costly, and I got to give them the message, but do I have to do it this way? Do I have to do it in front of their siblings? Do I have to yell at him in front of his sister and brother? Can I just talk to him privately? Do I have to yell at him in front of his friends? Can I just tell him, let's go home and I want to talk to you? Do I have to, address her face to face in front of everybody in the conference room? Can I just send her perhaps a message that maybe we could have lunch and we could discuss it? And when you start working on yourself, you start realizing that you can still do the same things you want to do as far as getting to an end goal, but there's a better way to do it. But that's only because you care about others much more than you care about, in essence, your agenda. And this has a huge effect not only on the way you serve Hashem, as far as your mitzvot, and running away from bad things, but it has a huge effect on your own impact on the world around you. There was a Arab that used to go and buy the chametz from a Rav Yashiv, alav shalom. Rav Yashiv was Ish Kodesh. Anyone that has been to our channel for several years remembers hearing the recording that we have from a Rav Yashiv's study session. He used to study his Torah, and it was the most beautiful music in the world. Now, you're not going to understand a single word of what he's saying, but the voice, the tune, it's literally like, it's like you're inside the Gan Eden and you're hearing the angels sing. It's unbelievable. It's on our channel. Anyone that types Rabbi Yashiv or Rav Yashiv on my channel, you'll see like a 40-minute recording that was made many years ago of somebody just recording with a standard video recorder or something, him studying. And this is how he sounded for 100 years. This is how he studied all the time. So just imagine living with this, being around this in real life. So there was a Gentile, an Arab, that used to buy the chametz from Rav Yashiv each year. One year, this Arab didn't show up. Every year you would come, spend a couple of minutes with the rabbi, literally a couple of minutes with the rabbi, to do the transaction of buying the chametz. After Pesach, he would give it back, and that's it, simple. Now, one year, this guy didn't show up. A day of the actual chametz being final, everything being finalized, the Arab shows up, but this time he doesn't look like the Arab that Rabbi Yashiv knows for many years. He looks more like an avrech. I said, "What happened? What happened to you? Were you wearing a Purim? You wearing a costume? What's up with you?" He says, "No, Purim. I'm a Jew." A Jew? You a Jew? I mean, first and foremost, there's not many Arabs that convert to Judaism. It's not common. Not because of belief, but because of life risk. Arabs that find out that their fellow Arabs converted to Judaism, it's death penalty practically. It's life risk, not just for them, for the family, for the kids, for descendants. It's a nightmare and a half. So many times you have people that believe in Judaism within Arab communities, and they simply have to keep it to themselves. Now, this particular guy ended up converting to Judaism. So they asked him, what motivated you to convert? Who inspired you? Did you go to a seminar or something? I don't know. Did you go to one of the famous Kiruv rabbis that gave you inspiration? Like, what made you convert? He says, it was enough for me to see the behavior of Rav Yashiv for 2 minutes a year for the last several years to show me that I want to be like this. I want to be a Jew. That's it. That was the motivation. It wasn't a special lecture. It wasn't a movie. It wasn't a seminar. Simply, the behavior of a tzaddik is so beautiful. How he conducted himself, the honesty, the integrity, the respect for everyone, that so long as they're not against the Torah. Amazing. Amazing. And when this guy saw it, he says, I want to be a Jew. That's enough for me to want to be a Jew. You know, some people, they want to be Jews because they want to marry Jews. Some people want to be Jews because they think that will make them smarter. Some people want to marry Jews because they think all types of other things. But the only people that really want to be Jews for the right reasons are the people that want to be Jews because they want to be part of the Torah. They want to learn Torah, they want to serve Hashem. They want to do everything possible that Hashem says. Everything. No exceptions. And how does a person know? You have to emulate the righteous people. Not just emulate them by idolizing them and putting a picture on your screensaver. But reading their work, following their behavior. When a person focuses on themselves versus other people, the consequences are quite the opposite. Today it's very common for people to say, oh, Mashiach now. Mashiach now. And as we are still in the Shiva of Rav Kanievsky, we'll say another story about Rav Kanievsky. Years ago, somebody came to Rav Kanievsky, a businessman, with, this overly righteous attitude. Rabbi, when's Mashiach gonna come? Rav Kanievsky, that Kol Kulo was Torah, learning, was reading his Gemara, but he had Derech Eretz. Somebody asks you something, you have to respond. So he put his finger exactly where he was reading up to make sure he doesn't lose the spot. And he raised his holy head, looked at this businessman, and says, don't worry, they'll let you know. After a moment, put his head back down and went back to learning. What does it mean? In so many words, you're so worried about your desire for Mashiach. Mashiach now is going to save your problems, going to save this, going to put this. Instead of doing that, why don't you do something to bring Mashiach? Go do Kiruv, help more people do Tshuva. Go teach more people Torah. Go do something that's going to bring more holiness to the world and sanctify Hashem's name. Instead of saying, when's Mashiach going to come? One of the most ridiculous things in the world is when people say, oh, I hope Mashiach comes tomorrow. Like, what makes you so sure that you're going to be saved? Have you reviewed your actions to such fine-tooth comb that you're perfect, you're really righteous? And that's the thing, is that people are either arrogant or ignorant. That they say things because they're not looking at everybody else's perspective. What's the need for society, but rather themselves. Oh, Mashiach comes because I have problems. IRS is after me. Divorce. They figure like, I don't know, the Mashiach is going to like fix all their problems or something. Like he's like some social non-profit organization. I don't know. Like I'm not really sure what people think about Mashiach, but it's definitely not what Mashiach is. And I can assure you that even the greatest sages in the world, Rabbi Eliezer ben Holkinos, Rabbi Yochanan, and many others, they weren't so sure about being saved if Mashiach came themselves. They weren't sure if they're even going to heaven. But people today don't even have 1% of the Torah that the sages have. Mashiach now. What does that show? It shows ignorance for sure, but it also shows a certain selfishness that people have because they want to solve their problems. And they're in their head, in their mind, the Mashiach will solve their problems. But what about people that they would prefer Mashiach to not come yet? Not because they don't want the salvation to come, but because they haven't done tshuva yet. Or their kids haven't done tshuva. And their kids are dating somebody from a different religion. Or they themselves are in a intermarriage. Or they themselves are having all types of issues. And if Mashiach came, they would be the first to be destroyed. So again, when a person concerns themselves only about themselves, it makes their servitude of Hashem not so good. Not so good. Rav Gershon Edelstein, Shichyeh, in the Levaya of Rav Kanievsky, he spoke for a little while. I believe he spoke the longest from the others, spoke extensively. And he said the following. In front of almost 1 million people that attended the Levaya of Rav Kanievsky, people from all walks of life, some Haredi, some secular, some Baalei Tshuva, some from birth, some Ashkenazi, Sfaradi, Hasidi, people from all walks of life showed up to this Levaya. I mean, it was intentional that they delayed the Levaya. I mean, some people say, wait a minute, aren't you supposed to bury the Jew on the same day? Yes, unless there's an exception. What's the exception? If it's kavod for the Torah to delay it. That's the halacha, Shulchan Aruch. That if it'll give the Torah more honor to delay the burial, then that's what you do. How could such a thing happen? If a Gadol Ador dies, and by delaying it by a day, or day and a half, you will end up bringing 1 million more people to the funeral, an opportunity to reach more people, unite more people, connect Torah to more people, give more honor to the Chacham and to the Torah that he learned. As more people attend his funeral, cry over him, then surely that's what you do. Because if they would have done the Levaya on the same day that he passed, perhaps 100,000 people would have showed up. Still big, still respectable, but everybody understands it's nowhere near the same as having almost 1 million people. So it was more honor for the Torah, and that's why they did it. And Rav Edelstein, who is a giant in Torah, he says at the Levaya, a message that applies to all 1 million people, no matter where they are. He took the platform and the opportunity to speak to 1 million people and to give them a message that applies to each and every single listener. And he said, we must go in the way of Morenu Rav Kanievsky and learn Musar every day. And each person who does so will be happy and fulfilled, as will his spouse, his wife. That's the message. That was the foundation of all of the words that Rav Edelstein said to 1 million people, that the way of Rav Kanievsky is what we have to follow. What is that way? Perfect yourself as a vessel in your servitude of Hashem, in your learning of Torah, in your marriage, in your business, in everything. How? By learning Musar every day. And in simple words, anyone that will do this, he says, anyone that will learn Musar every day will be happy. He didn't say if you learn about loving, dancing. No, if you learn Musar every day, you'll be happy. Because that's from the source. The happiest man on earth that just left us, Rav Kanievsky, learned Musar every day. Every day. Yeah, but he already read it 1,000,000 times. 1,000,001. Why? There's more to learn. More to perfect. What could such a tzaddik perfect? Everybody can perfect. And as soon as there was nothing else to perfect, HaKadosh Baruch Hu took him. But unfortunately, sometimes people will think that the way that I am is the way that I am. Like a couple that gets angry at their guest. Why? The couple got angry. So the husband knew that the wife likes the new set of dishes. So what did he do? Took the dishes and threw them out the window. The wife said, that's what you do? Fine. To get back at him, what you do? She threw the cups out the window. And then the guest that they had at the house watching all of this, he took the whole table and threw it out the window. He said, hey, what are you getting involved for? He goes, I'm not getting involved. I thought we were eating outside. Sometimes a person does all types of stupid things. Funny, but stupid. Funny after the fact, but stupid at all times. And then he gets upset that the world around him doesn't act and dance to his accordion. You have to understand that if you want the world around you to become better, you have to start caring about the world, not through just giving everything to the world, but rather perfect yourself. Perfect yourself. And the way that you communicate with the world will improve as a result of that. The way that you connect to Hashem will improve as a result of that. The way that you handle difficulties will improve as a result of that. The more a person perfects themselves, the easier things will become. If they lie to themselves and pretend like they're already perfectly fine, may Hashem have mercy. Because literally they could be putting themselves in a Gaon that will never end. Now, the Gemara in Masechet Psachim, page 68b, says a story that Rabbi Yosef was preparation for Shavuot, and he says, he goes into the market and he asks, give me the best lamb that you have, Meshulash. Now, someone looking at this, said, why is the Rabbi Talmid Chacham want the fanciest piece of meat? What, he's like a big eater? All he cares about is specific meat. So Rabbi Yosef says, Baruch Hashem for this day, this Shavuot day. Because if it wasn't for this day of Shavuot, where we received the Torah that I've studied, then I would be just another Yosef in the market. Rashi says, not that he just studied, but he studied and rose as a result of it. Why? Because the Mishnah in Avot says that in the 6th chapter, the first Mishnah, says that a person learns a lot of Torah, it uplifts him. It uplifts him. Uplifts his attitude, uplifts his happiness, uplifts his servitude of Hashem. It makes him better. So Rabbi Yosef says, I have to get the best lamb. Why? I have to celebrate this special day. Because of this special day when we got the Torah. Because we got the Torah, I had the opportunity to study it and toil over it. And because I toiled over it and became a Talmid Chacham, I'm no longer just another Yosef in the market. Meaning to what? What is it meaning? That if I just was like everybody else, studying whenever I get a chance or not studying at all, then what's the difference between me and any other Yosef in the market? Okay, so this Yosef has $1 million, that Yosef has $5, this Yosef is married, that Yosef is still single, this Yosef is tall, that Yosef is black, this Yosef is Chinese, that Yosef has 1 foot. What's the difference between all your Yosefs? Nothing. But if the Yosef is Talmid Chacham and used the Torah to uplift himself, meaning that through the Torah, I worked on my traits, I perfected myself, I'm serving Hashem, I care about people, then I have all the reasons in the world to celebrate this big day. Why? This is the day that I became Yosef. That's different than the rest of the Yosefs. How many of us really are a different Yosef than everybody else? How many of us? Be'emet if we're really serious. Now don't tell me, no, but I'm really a special. Okay, please. You may look a certain way, but I could assure you there's another one that has the same name that looks also beautiful, just like you, or even better. And don't tell me, no, but I have success. I can assure you that there's probably another person with your name that has just as much or even more success in a bigger company and a bigger balance sheet. No, but I'm really smart. Okay, I can assure you that there's another guy with your name and he probably has a few extra points on his IQ and a few extra tests and a few extra licenses and a few degrees and maybe even a few more dollars. What really makes you special? What makes you special? Who are you? Are you really Yosef? Or are you just another Yosef in the market? Well, let me tell you something. You want to be a special Yosef? You want to be a special Sarah? You want to be a special Ovadia? You want to be a special Levana? You want to be a special Yaron? You better dedicate your entire life to learning Torah, doing mitzvot, doing chesed, breaking all of your weaknesses as far as character traits, to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu to the point that you love Him and you cannot live without Him. And as a result of it, you will dedicate your entire life to serving Him and helping all of His people. That's how you can make yourself special. If not, you're just another Yosef. You're just another Yaron. You're just another Sarah. You're just another anything. Now you can be fine with that. I can assure you that your Creator, your Father in heaven, is not fine with it. Why? He created you to be you and not to be like everybody else. Not to be a sheep. Not to be just another. But to be something. Something special. And you can be that something special. But it takes work. A lot of work. Not on the world. On yourself. It all starts with the person you see when you look in the mirror. And when a person looks at things from that perspective, it becomes much easier to understand the midrash that we started almost 45 minutes ago. The midrash Rabbi in Parashat Vayikra that says, Moshe Rabbeinu that built the Mishkan. Oh, Moshe Rabbeinu, who's better than Moshe Rabbeinu? Moshe Rabbeinu, Nevi HaNevi'im, Ish HaElokim, Rosh BaNevuah veRosh BaChokhmah. Moshe Rabbeinu, prophet of all prophets, the man of God, the head of prophecy and also wisdom, even higher than Shlomo HaMelech, says the Gemara. In both Masechet Rosh Hashanah and Masechet Megillah. Moshe Rabbeinu built the Mishkan. Only one that had the merit to uplift this Mishkan. The whole nation couldn't do it. Moshe Rabbeinu did it by himself. After he did all of this new house of God, what happens? He waits outside like a good little boy. 20 feet tall, good little boy waits outside of the Mishkan. For what? For the statement we read in Parashat Vayikra that talks about korbanot. And we thought had nothing to do with our life. Little do we know it has everything to do with our life. You want to get to the korbanot. You want to understand how to serve Hashem, how to bring a sacrifice. Sacrifice yourself first like Moshe Rabbeinu. Stay outside like Moshe Rabbeinu. Why? The Midrash says Moshe Rabbeinu stayed outside of the Mishkan. He stayed outside of the Mishkan. Why he stayed outside the Mishkan? Why you staying outside? Go inside, check things out. Check things out, the window, this, that, check it out. No, he stayed outside. Why? Waited for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to invite him. Why? Why are you waiting? You build it for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, for HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you build it. No. Go inside. No, the Midrash said. If he would have gone inside, the Mishkan, says the Midrash, and if the Midrash didn't say this, I would not be allowed to say it. Literally, the ground would open and swallow me dead in a second like Korach. The Midrash says, if Moshe Rabbeinu would have gone inside the Mishkan without being invited by a Kadosh Baruch Hu, then a dead animal in the street would be better than Moshe Rabbeinu, chas v'shalom. What? Because he went inside? But he built the thing. Doesn't matter, he built the thing. Doesn't matter, he built it. You build it for yourself, you build it for the windowsills, you build it for what you build it for? To serve a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Who says that a Kadosh Baruch Hu wants you to come inside? Where do we see it? We see it in this week's parasha. Parashat Shmini. Two tzaddikim, two out of the four sons of Aaron HaKohen, that the Gemara says had the potential to be greater than Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron. They weren't greater, but they had the potential to be greater than them. Two tzaddikim, two kdoshim. And it says, Nadav and Avihu, ויקחו בני אהרון נדב ואביהו איש מחתתו, ויתנו בהן אש וישימו עליה קטורת, ויקריבו לפני אדוני אש זרה, אשר לא ציווה אותם. ותצא אש מלפני אדוני, ותאכל אותם וימותו לפני אדוני. The sons of Aaron, Nadav and Avihu, each took his fire pan. They put fire in them and placed incense upon it, Ktoret. And they brought this before Hashem, an alien fire that he had not commanded. And a fire came from before Hashem and consumed them, and they died before Hashem. What do we see here? Are they looking to go serve an idol here? Who are they doing this fire for? For themselves? Who are they doing this for? Who are they doing it for? Are they doing it for some foreign god? No, they're doing it for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They're doing it for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They're going to Mishkan for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What are they doing? HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells us, even your servitude of me has to follow the Torah itself. Has to follow the instructions that I tell you. You can't just pray when you want to pray, learn where you want to learn, do what you want to do. Everything has to have derech eretz. Moshe Rabbeinu almost lost everything. Theoretically, if he would have done the same thing as Nadav and Avihu. Nadav and Avihu had potential to be greater than Moshe Rabbeinu and Aaron. Lost everything. Why? They went to serve Hashem, but their own way. Their own time. Kadosh Baruch Hu says everything has derech eretz. Did I invite you? No. So who said you're welcome? Yeah, but we're coming to serve you. Who says you're welcome to serve me right now? What is this like? People showing up at your house, as is customary in different parts of the world, especially in like Israel and Europe. Show up in your house. Hey, what's up? What's going on? I was just stopping by. Listen, who says you're invited? Maybe I was busy. Maybe I had something to do. Maybe I don't feel good. Why didn't you call ahead? No, I was in the neighborhood. So what if you were in the neighborhood? There's bugs in the neighborhood. I want them inside my house. There's neighbors in my neighborhood. Does that mean I want them in my house? Just because you're next to my house, that means you have to be in my house? But you can't tell them that. Why? Because you have derech eretz and you feel shy. But they put you in that situation. The reality is, Rabotai, if each person thinks about what's best for them, their life is like a minefield. They're constantly in danger. If a person starts thinking about, what does Hashem say? What does Hashem say? Love your brother like you love yourself. Okay. So, I have to think about my brother and his interest, my sister and her interest before my interest. So, even if I want to give him something, I have to announce it. Why? The Gemara, Masechet Shabbat, says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to Moshe Rabbeinu, I have a great gift, a treasure in my treasure chest. And its name is Shabbat. Go tell Am Yisrael I'm giving it to them. From there, the sages teach us that when someone is going to give another person a gift, they should tell them first. Why? It's derech eretz. It's derech eretz. It's good manners. It's good manners. No, but I want to surprise them. Who says he wants to be surprised? Surprise! Who says I want 500 people in my house for a surprise party? Who says I want these people in my house? Maybe I have a headache. Maybe I have a bad day. Maybe one of these people you invited, I don't like them. Who says I want this surprise party? A person has to understand. Maybe you want a surprise party. But if you're throwing me a surprise party, you better ask me first and it better not be a surprise. Why? Because you have to think about my interest, not your interest. My interest. You buy me a present? Tell me. Why? Maybe I already have it. Maybe I don't want it. Maybe this, maybe that. Maybe I don't feel comfortable taking a present from you. Why? Because then I'll feel obligated to you. Many times people give a lot of money for donations, for donations, for weddings, for things like that, and then they expect something in return. It's almost like an investment. And it's almost like, yeah, you know what? Let me just give you the money back so you can just leave me alone and don't expect anything from me. Why? Because if I knew ahead of time that you're going to expect all this from me, if you give this to me, I wouldn't take it. I'm not for sale. So if you're going to give, if you're going to do, it has to be with derech eretz. It has to be with derech eretz. Oh, honey, I bought a car. Okay, good for you. You bought a car, but did you think about the rest of the family when you bought the car? Is the car a two-seater, or it's for the whole family? For you to look like you're 25 years old. Well, but it's a nice car. It's a good deal. Okay, it's a good deal. Thank you very much. It's a good deal. But we have 6 people in the family. You are only one. The car can only fit half of you. How is this a family car? No. Well, we have the other car. Well, how come your car is more expensive than the house, and the car that we use for the rest of the family is maybe we could buy a toilet with it? How come? Because you're thinking about yourself. You're thinking about yourself. Oh, honey, listen, I'm going to go away next week. Where are you going? Oh, I'm taking some time off. I'm going with my friends to a place. What do you mean taking time off with your friends? What does that mean you're going with your friends? What about the rest of the family? Well, listen, the kids are in school, and, you have to take care of the kids. So I figured you can't come with me, so I'm going away with my friends. Yeah, but who says I'm okay with it? Who says that the wife wants to stay home alone with the kids? You want to take off work, but stay home, help with the kids, do something. Why do you have to go on vacation while the wife stays home? Why are you so selfish? But that's the thing, Rabotai. He didn't think about it. He didn't take the vacation that way because he wants to hurt his wife. He didn't buy the car that way because he wants to hurt his kids and wife. She didn't go to the dinner with her friends and show up late to the house because she wanted to hurt her husband. No, they love their husband, they love their wife, they love them. But they love themselves more. So they didn't have time to think about the husband, or the wife, or the kids, or the neighbor, or the teacher, or the parents, or anybody. And that's the key.
The path to righteousness. The path to righteousness, Rabotai, means that you have to stay away from the bad, do all the required good, try to do even more than the required good. But either way, do it the way Hashem said it, by perfecting the traits, the flaws, the selfishness, the arrogance, the stinginess, the anger, the whatever weakness you have. Fix it. Become the best version of you. And then you'll become somebody. Somebody that's happy. Somebody that doesn't need any drugs, doesn't need any stimulants, doesn't need praises, doesn't need compliments. Just Torah. Torah and Torah. Why? Because that's the fuel. Of course, a person has a family, gets love from their kids, their spouse, and so on. But it's all under the same umbrella of Torah. It's all under the same umbrella. When you don't have Torah, then you need outside stimulants. You need a friend, you need a girlfriend, you need a boyfriend, you need a dog, you need a certain position at work, a plaque, recognition, a thank you email, a like on a post, a stupid window type, windowsill and window shade, and a counter from Italy, and special shoes. And you constantly try to get those stimulants from different things. And some people are crazy enough now to start taking even drugs and saying it's kosher to take these drugs because you want to spiritually uplift yourself, to make yourself believe like you're talking to God. Aside from it being forbidden for the 1.5 million reasons, it's also stupidity, outright stupidity. You can do it without the drugs. You can do it without the plaque. You can do it without the girlfriend and the boyfriend and all of these outside stimulants. You could do it without anything. Just do what it says in the book. Stay away from the bad, do the good, and do it the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu says. Path to righteousness. B'ezrat Hashem. This too will help each and every one of us have more strength, desire, to go on the path of righteousness full force, full speed ahead. Never look back, only look forward, or to the right and left to see if you could help bring along with you. Baruch Adonai Le'olam. Amen v'amen.
אני מברך את הרבנים, רגע. אני מברך את הרבנים, הרב ירון, ראובן, הרב אפרים כחלון, ראשי ארגון בעזרת השם, שהלכו בפי עליון, שעלו מעלה, יהיה להם ברכה והצלחה, הקדוש ברוך הוא ימלא בישועות ליבם לטובה ולברכה, שבכל אשר יפנו ישכילו ויצליחו, יזכו לעשות כאלה וכאלה, הגדילו תורה לאדירה, אמן ואמן.
בעזרת השם רשת בכל הארץ. הוא היהודי הזה, הוא היה מיליונר, סגר את כל הביזנס, אמר אני משקיע פה בעולמה של תורה.
איפה הוא גר?
בפלורידה.
פלורידה, איפה זה פלורידה? באמריקה.
במיימי. כן, ליד. אנחנו שם עכשיו הולכים להקים קהילה ספרדית גדולה.
תעבירו מה שבירכתי אותו.
כן, קהילה ספרדית גדולה.
כן.